Hello my friends, story time with Mrs. Beth again. I have a very special shout out hello to my friend Kendra and to her kids Nash and McKenna. Kendra, this story is for you because she had a request and she even gave me the book to read it. You know what, friends, all of you that are listening, do you know nursery rhymes? There's lots of different nursery rhymes, and there's one about an egg. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. I'm not going to say it all because I have a story about Humpty Dumpty. It's a little bit different. We'll talk about it after. Here we go. After the fall. Let's read it. After the fall. How Humpty Dumpty got back up again. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot, high up on the wall. I know it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I love being close to the birds. Then one day I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the greatest fall, which sounds a little grand. It was an accident, but it changed my life. Fortunately, all the king's men managed to put me back together. Well, most of me. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. After that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. I walked past that wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really missed the birds and being high above the city. But I could never do it because I knew that accidents can happen. I eventually settled for watching the birds from the ground. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. Then, one day, an idea flew by. Making planes was harder than I thought. It was easy to get cuts and scratches, but day after day I kept trying and trying and trying until I got it just right. Cool plane. My plane was perfect, and it flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt that happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being up in the sky with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. That's true. Accidents always can happen. I almost walked away again. Look, his airplane bird landed up there. I almost walked away again, but then I thought about all the time I'd spent working on my plane and all the other things I'd missed. I decided I was going to climb that wall. But the higher I got, oh man, the more nervous I felt. I didn't want to admit it, but I was terrified. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just kept climbing, one step at a time. Until I did it. I was no longer afraid. Maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who was famous for falling. Hopefully you'll remember me as the egg who got back up and learned how to fly. What a great story! I've never heard it before. This is my first time ever reading it. You know what? Sometimes we have a hard time doing things, or we try something and we fail, or an accident happens and we're like, oh, I just can't do it again. You know what, friends? You gotta keep trying. You never know how good and how amazing you'll be at something if you give up. Humpty Dumpty was an egg. And what's inside of an egg? A bird, right? Well, if you listened really well, even go back and listen again if you want, at the end, what happens to Humpty Dumpty when he got back up on that wall? So my friends, when you're having a hard time, get back up and keep trying. Okay, now story 2. I may be little. Let's hear what it has to say about being little. I may be little. The story of David's growth. Long ago, in a land far away, lived a little boy named David. He had 7 brothers who were older and bigger and stronger than David. You know, his older brothers worked very hard on the farm. They did not want a little boy in the way while they were working. And sometimes David felt very small and unimportant. But one day, his father gave him a job of his very own. He asked David to be a shepherd. A shepherd is someone who watches the sheep. A shepherd counts his sheep to make sure they are always with them. And he looks after his sheep. A very important job, because sheep like to wander away. You got to look after them. David learned to count his sheep. Let's see if we can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A shepherd leads his sheep to food and water. He puts medicines on their scratches. A shepherd loves his sheep, has to take care of them. David was glad to have a job to do. I may be little, said David, but with God, He will help me do big things. God will help me do big things. David took his sheep to the grassy hills. He watched while the big sheep ate their lunch. And David laughed when the little lambs romped around and rolled around in the wildflowers. But sometimes David felt lonely. There was nobody to play with. So David made up songs to remind himself that God was always near. David spent many hours talking to God, and they became best friends. David knew God could help him become a good shepherd. God could help him protect his sheep from hungry animals. Often, David practiced throwing rocks with his slingshot, and he learned to hit the target every time. He kept practicing, and he got better. Once, a growling bear came and chased the little lambs. Round and round, David whirled his slingshot and zip threw a stone through the air, and whack! The stone hit the bear on his snout, his nose. Roar! Went the bear, and he zipped away through the bushes. God had helped David protect his lambs from the bear. Another day, a ferocious lion spied David's sheep. He wanted lamb burgers for lunch. With one big bounce, the lion pounced on the fluffy lamb and snatched it away from its mama. Oh no! There was no time to use a slingshot, but David ran as fast as he could. He knew God would help him save his sheep. Before the lion knew what had happened, David grabbed him by the mane and bopped him on the head, and the lion was gone too. The fluffy lamb was safe, and David was happy. He had done a good job. I may be little, but with God's help, I can do big things. What a cute Bible story about David and how God was his friend. And even though David had a job, looking after the sheep was an important job for a farm. He was lonely, but he sang songs to God. He talked to God, and God helped him, and he protected the sheep. He didn't do it himself. God helped him protect his sheep from the bears and the lions. And you know what, your friends? Some of you that are listening to these stories, you may not be very big. You might be little. But with God's help, you can do great big things. Keep trying, my friends, and I'll see you next time.